I'm Kat and I play red. Obviously, with conventions all going digital this year, there's been loads of stuff going on. And earlier this year, I was asked to be part of the reviewers' climb for charity for Gen Con line. I don't know if they did that. Someone should do that, Conline. That works, yeah. And I played Annapurna. Annapurna is the most dangerous massive in the world. I learned a new word. Massives are basically to mountains what mountains are to hills. They're some of the most dangerous and treacherous peaks out there. Annapurna is in Nepal. So, in Annapurna, you're trying to climb the massive, but also leave no trace behind. Let's have a look at the game. Firstly, it's important to know that there is a competitive rulebook and a cooperative rulebook. But we all know how Kat feels about cooperative games, so that's gone. We're going to be looking at the competitive version of the game. Each player has a deck of 18 cards. These cards are the same from player to player. And what you're going to do is shuffle these cards up and build your mountain. I do mine from the bottom. I know Rob does his all sorts of weird ways from the top and the sides and goodness knows what. So we're going to do a mountain with 5 at the bottom, then 4, then 3, then 2 and 1, leaving 3 cards. These cards are going to be your hand or your backpack if you want theme. Each player also has a lovely chunky meeple. This is a prototype, but I love these. I hope they keep these big chunky boys in play. So your meeple is going to start at the bottom of your massive. In your turn, there are 3 actions you can do. In the first turn, there's 1 action you can do, which is explore. So I get to decide where my worker's starting. I'm going to pop him in the middle, so I'm going to flip the card over. Oh great, not a good start. Read the card and do what it says. So skip my next turn. Not the best start in the world. So my little meeple is here. I'm actually going to put him face down, so he's having a little rest, to remind me that I missed the next turn. Now, the important thing about this game is balance is everything. As you can see, cards have got yin and yang symbols on, and you want them to balance out as much as possible. At the end of each turn, you take an action called a sweep action, which means anything in your tableau that is balanced disappears. So this Sweet Dreams, it's a bit of a lie, isn't it, has no symbols, therefore it's balanced. So this card is swept and goes into my cache for later. So my opponent will explore a card in the bottom row. I miss a turn. They get another turn. Then it comes back to me. Now, as I'm already on the massive, I have the choice of 3 actions. I can either explore, which means moving to an adjacent card. So in this case, I could look at either of these 2 or either of these 2 cards. Alternatively, I can trade cards. I have a look at what's in my hand and I can decide I'm going to swap this card for a card in my hand. So that card goes there. This card that I'm swapping out actually goes into my cache. and those will become useful later on in the game. The other action I can take is to hide a card, and this is where the game gets really interesting. I can decide to swap this card in my hand with a card in my opponent's tableau. So I'm going to take this card, which goes into my cache, and pop that card on their mountain, which can be a nasty surprise for them to deal with later on in the game. So, back to me. I'm going to explore and go here. Flip this card over. I spotted a Yeti. This isn't great, is it? So, I'm now really unbalanced. This card has no effect, but unbalances me now for the rest of the game. So, if I continue to explore, oh my goodness. I have the binoculars card. This means I can look at 2 face down cards anyway. Now, I really need to try and balance this out. So, let's have a look at that card. My goodness, and that one. I've got the worst tableau to show you what's going on ever. And I haven't got much in my hand that helps. So, I'm going to continue exploring. Oh, rope. You must explore the row above you on the next turn. So, I must explore here. This is the first card you face. Skip your next turn. Sweep that one. So, now I'm at the top. The round hasn't ended. The round will only end when all players make it to the top of their tableau. But now I'm at the top, I need to sweep that because it's a 0. I take back those cards from my cache. And now my available actions change. So, obviously I can't explore because I'm done exploring. I can do nothing and rest for a turn. It's very zen. I can drop a card. So I can choose one of the cards in my hand and place it in my tableau. So I'm going to choose to pop this chocolate bar down. So as before, you need to sweep your mountain at the end of every turn. And if you notice, these 2 cards balance each other out. Instead of placing them in my cache, however, I just flip them over. So I'm slightly more balanced than before. I still have this horrible Yeti to deal with. Alternatively, I can throw a card. So if my opponent has some empty spots in their tableau, I can choose to throw a card onto their tableau. However, they can then choose if they want to sabotage me or not. So, in this case, they can pick one of the cards in my tableau to flip face up. Now, if you've been paying attention, you'd remember that there was lots of big numbers going on here. So, not that one. So they could flip over this one, yay! Which then means that I have 7 to try and balance out, which at this stage of the game is going to be almost impossible. Play continues until the last player reaches their peak. So, in this case, if Brown got here, they'd sweep that at the end of the turn, and that would be the end of the round. So here, the balance is only out by 1, whereas my balance is out by a massive 7 points. There wasn't ever going to be much I could do about that. So, the first player to the top receives 3 flags. So, that's their card. In a 2-player game, the second player gets 2 flags. In a 3 or 4 player game, the third player would receive 1 flag. This is not based on who gets to the top first, but who has the most balanced tableau at the end of the round. Alternatively, there may be very rare occasions where a player gets to the top and they're completely balanced. So in this case, these would sweep and these would sweep, and I'd be at the top with perfect balance. In that case, I would receive 4 flags. I've got 2 there, let's give me another 2. I would receive 4 flags and the round would immediately end with no other players having a chance to earn any points. There's a couple of things to note here. If you forget to sweep at the end of a round, an opponent can scavenge from you. So, in this case, if Brown had forgotten to sweep, I can scavenge one of these cards and pop it into my cache for later on, therefore unbalancing them and giving me access to more cards once I've hit my peak. Once the round is finished, you're going to reset the mountain sides. So don't forget, you may well have cards from another player, so make sure you give those back, especially if they're stinky cards. Give those back, shuffle and rebuild your tableau and start again. Play will continue until one player has 9 points. Annapurna, at its heart, is quite a simple game, but the meat of the game really comes from the player interaction. Now, Rob doesn't like being mean, so when we play, it's all quite friendly. However, when I played online, it was harsh, and I mean harsh. There's, as you saw, there's some of the cards with 3 and 4 symbols, so you start throwing those onto people's mountains and you're going to stuff them up for the rest of the game. Also, be aware that not all the cards in your tableau work in your favour. As you saw, my first card was skip a turn, for goodness sake. Also, we've got things like trouble at the airport, shuffle your backpack with another climber's and split the cards between the 2 of you. So the cards get mixed up, you forget what you've got on your tableau. It can be brutal. Annapurna plays up to 4 players. I think it's definitely one of those games where more is slightly better, especially if you have friendly players. It's available on Kickstarter. I'll put the link in the description below. Go and check it out. It's also available to play on Tabletop Simulator, so go and have a look there. Becca, who designed the game, did a great job of teaching it to us. I don't know if she'll be around doing that during the Kickstarter. I imagine so. Have a look. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, click like, subscribe and all that. Links are below. Come and say hello on the socials, on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Thanks for watching. Bye.